Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Just after last week's Elseworlds crossover, it's been a hard letdown as far as
a hard knock life for us.
It is. It was just the more distance we get from it, the more I gain appreciation for what they accomplished in this year's crossover, and I know we went through it last week, but I'm just really looking forward to part B of this seasons for our shows, and of course Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, I think as much as it was last week, I was so into coming home, sitting down, watching the episode, writing notes, and preparing for our discussion about it. I think my longing has more to do with the fact that now we're in this bloody winter hiatus where I have all of this time, and yet Arrowverse is off on hiatus, and despite a lot of my issues with the shows this year, I still miss them, and that's because even if I get mad at them, it's just because I know they can do better.
Yep.
They have it in them.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where it's definitely the upsetness it's like your sports team for fans, where it's like you have all the talent. It's just some weeks it's firing on all cylinders, and other weeks it's not, and then sometimes they just collapse like my Carolina Panthers did this year. But we won't go there.
Right. Yeah, because I stopped listening when you brought up football. Will, how dare you do that?
I know. Well,
we only take film and TV analogies on this podcast.
Yeah, anyone saw my timeline last night, you would definitely know what I'm talking about.
I did see your timeline. I still don't know what you're talking about. I mean, didn't they do an interception from New Orleans and run it all the way back, which was pretty impressive? I watched that a few times.
Yeah, it was.
But you guys still suck.
Yeah, we do. And it's, yeah, we do. Yeah, it's ever since they got beat by Pittsburgh, they just haven't been the same. But we're not going to turn this into a sports podcast tonight.
All right. On that note, so because the shows are gone, and we haven't talked about this show that is quasi-Arrowverse related, Black Lightning also ended its first season, or had a mid-season finale this last week.
Yep.
And I got so far behind on Black Lightning because of the crossover that I did not even realize until after the end of the last episode that we moved on to a new book called The Book of Rebellion.
Yep.
Apparently they wanted Jennifer to suddenly take a few steps back in terms of progression. I don't know why. That was a bit annoying. Granted, it gave some really good moments for both Lynn and Jefferson, so it's a win-win. And well, we all knew it was false, but Gamby's still alive. Yep,
he's still alive. Yeah, I still like Black Lightning, but I'm feeling like some pacing issues are starting to creep into the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just seems a bit stagnant right now.
They crammed 3 books in the first half of the season. There's 9 episodes.
Yeah.
And last season, I remember it's okay, I'm going to tell one story, one arc, and then the second half is another story and another arc. And I feel like there's just so many arcs.
There are a lot of arcs. I will give them credit for one thing in that they do have multiple arcs and multiple stories for all the main characters. So it's very deep as far as we've had good character development with Jefferson, Lynn with her story with the lab tech earlier this season, Gamby just being the man of mystery and pulling pulling a Nick Fury, but also getting, getting more as far as like, his shadowy character, how he is, and also just his relationship with Jefferson, and sort of, basically become his surrogate father after Jefferson's father died, and their dynamics, which was on display this episode in particular, with when Jefferson was getting into fatherhood despair because he thinks that Khalil has kidnapped Jennifer, which is actually not the case, but it definitely makes for interesting melodrama.
So, I don't know how interesting it is with the whole Khalil and Jennifer, because it kind of makes her look really stupid in the sense that there are brief moments where I understand why she's doing this, but majority of the time she just has this expression like, well, why did he get mad at me? Well, why is he behaving this way? Why is he doing this? And I'm kind of like, really? Didn't your sister teach you well? Like your sister is pretty straightforward and direct and recognizes people for who they are. And it's just the moment she tried to call her parents and she got really like, she was so shocked that Khalil would be like, oh no, you can't do that. I was kind of like, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because it's so stupid. Yeah, and then they get away at the end, and I still don't really understand. I don't know. I guess there was a point in the direction of that episode where the space was confusing to me, because for all of these metas that are coming around, you're telling me Jennifer is able to pull Khalil out of the situation, and he can barely walk on his own and get far enough ahead of everyone where they can't find her.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. Like, they know the direction she went to. So I think that Gamby needs to up his game. He had put himself on the sidelines for a majority of the season, and that was very much proven. Like, he's a bit rusty on the whole tracking people down.
Yep.
So, but the moment that stood out the most for me was with Lynn and how she's taking it all, because I think, to go back to your point about the multiple arcs and how that's a strength, well, I feel like her character spent so much time focused on that experiment with the green light babies. A sentence I never thought I would say, that I feel like we never really saw that moment maybe could have been 10 times better than it was. Even though I really liked it, it could have been such a more powerful moment had we had a little bit more interaction between her and Jennifer, and really that mother-daughter dynamic. Because they did that for Jefferson.
Yeah,
you really felt that for him. Even though I thought the flashbacks was a bit excessive. Like, Cress Williams is a pretty good actor. I think you could have just focused on him, and you know exactly what he's going through.
Yeah, you're right. And I guess that's again where I guess with the first season, it was such better paced and better. I mean, it was. I guess they're trying to do too much. I think fleshing out all these various arcs with all these characters, and again, I think with Jefferson, this season, he's in a little bit, I felt like he's been a little sidelined these last few episodes.
Yeah. I understand that point. That's a good one.
And so hopefully, it was, for a mid-season finale, it just sort of, it I don't feel like it it advanced the story too much. I mean, I think and it could be intentional because one of the good things that we've seen with this Khalil Jennifer storyline on the run is how Jennifer is getting more and more comfortable and coming to her own as far as using her powers. And so I applaud the writers for doing that, and I think that's one of the stronger points of this. So while I say it's stagnant in the sense that I just feel like I'm watching the same thing over and over again with them being on the run, the one thing that it is doing well is fleshing out Jennifer's abilities. Like, for example, and when she had that moment where she was, I guess, talking with, I can't remember the character's name, but whenever the meta whisperer that her parents sent her to, where she helped her identify the fear, but in doing that, it led to her understanding how everybody, with the electricity and how she can use her powers to be able to seek out the cutter. And the other point in the story is with helping going to the hospital dispensary and being able to figure out how to short circuit things so she can override the computer to get Khalil the antibiotics. There's been those little small touches that where before she was very fearful of her powers, now she's starting to accept them. And so I am liking that. And then, of course, we got the out of universe picture of her in her costume to go along with that. So, so I do applaud them for doing that. But I just feel like for a mid-season finale, really the only thing that kind of left me as far as, wondering what's cool that's going to come up happen is this the new meta that showed up at the end.
Do you know who he is?
I don't.
Okay.
I was trying to look up some stuff. I mean, I haven't read the Black Lightning comic hardly at all. So except for years ago. So I don't know the comic book history that well that I could say, oh yeah, this is one of the characters. Unless, I mean, it could be one of the Outsiders from Batman and the Outsiders. But I honestly don't know.
When I was watching that scene, I was like, wait a second, we already have a Cloak.
Yeah.
And that's Marvel.
That's Marvel.
Are we getting the DC version of Cloak? Because they always have the versions.
They do.
The other person. It is copying. So that's immediately where my mind went to. I was just like, what is this?
Yeah. So over the hiatus, I'm gonna have to do some DC homework and figure it out who it is, or if the listeners know, if you guys are Black Lightning followers on the comic side, shoot us a message and let us know who this character could be.
Yeah, I mean, even that point, I honestly forgot about until you brought it up, and I'm still because to me it feels like just another bad guy is coming into the fold. We've seen that before, and this is arguably a classic season 2 mistake, because the first seasons, they always write it where there's a good, strong, intimate connection between the bad guy and the good guy, right?
Yep, right.
So it's bias, right?
Yep.
The killing of the father, all of that.
Yep.
And because Tobias is still around, which most often the season 1 villains do carry over, they always have to introduce an outsider to combat and distract almost the hero. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where it loses focus in season 2, where suddenly and this again is for any TV show, where you really want to resolve this ongoing saga with your main villain, but all you can do is just watch them focus on this new entity, and it's kind of like, well, the other one is still out there.
Yeah.
So obviously he's going to survive. And because the only thing that I actually thought you were going to bring this up that I thought was a good point, and is that Tobias, I think, it's pretty much getting closer and closer. And by the end of the season, if not sooner, he better connect those freaking dots
He
and be
better.
like, oh, Jefferson is obviously Black Lightning.
Yep.
It's he only has 2 kids, okay?
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
So I hope that's where we get. I mean, we already have Jefferson's friend who figured it out. So Tobias, to really retain that fear, it's always in knowledge, and the threatening of that identity, which we, as something that's a lot of the shows seem to be focusing on this year, just in general, is identity and preservation of both of them.
Yeah. 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 And I'm glad you brought up Tobias, because this episode shed some light on, more light, I should say, on sort of his goal between the, you mentioned the green light babies, which was has sort of been kind of left in the back a little bit, especially when they did that little jaunt over to South Friedland and dealt with all the metas over there. But the new kid, Todd, and his experiment that.
Yeah, no, continue.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought this up.
It's getting more and more apparent that Tobias is one. He's doing a couple motivations. One, I think he is trying to build his own super soldier army, because you had Khalil, you had what was her name that was killed earlier. Yeah. Yep. And then
this was the mistake they did with Tobias, for me at least. They killed Cyanide in the first episode of the season.
Yeah. They should have kept her around. Such a good foil, especially. I know they were trying. It was one of those things where they felt they probably had to take her off the plate in order to flesh out the storyline in the conflict between Tobias and Khalil. But I think they would have been better served keeping her on. And then they've been bringing in these other metas to hunt him down, like Cutter, and this new kid Todd, which I think there's a couple things. One, I think he is trying to build a super soldier army. Two, I think he might try to try to use him to bring his sister back, as far as reanimate her. I don't know. It could be. Tobias was very close to his sister, and another thing that this kid was interested in was, maybe it will feed into, like you said, him helping him put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out that it is indeed Jefferson who is Black Lightning.
No, but why I really got excited is actually because of the actor. RJ Tyler I see him now in pretty much everything. Now I'm disappointed because I immediately checked IMDb and he's still only listed as being in this one episode. Do not cast him if you're not going to follow through, people. God. Because he is so good. And I'm very interested to see him play the bad guy, because he's always typecast in this geeky, nerdy, hyperactive role. So if he was to be built, if his character was really to be built around going from that extreme to the polar opposite, I think it would be a really compelling story. And I get the sense that he's a good enough actor to pull that transformation off.
Yeah.
But why is he listed only for one episode?
Maybe, I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, given how they introduced him, I can't imagine that he would just be a one-off. I mean, obviously the show always touches on racism and other stuff, and this episode was way on pretty much on the nose, like with how the committee discriminated against him, and also probably was bought off by the rich parents. So given that and how they had him throughout, getting introduced to Tobias and then coming back to the club at the end of near the end of the episode, I just can't imagine him being a one-off.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by that too, and I think they will probably bring him back. Maybe they're just not going to do it until the final episode of the season, and that's the hook for season 3.
Maybe.
But he's a talent and I also get the suspicion that whatever they do, they need to sign him.
Yeah.
Because he does movies.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he's somebody who, if you haven't watched this show before, and if you're familiar with any of his work, a movie he did when he was a little bit younger is called Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. He's amazing in that movie. He plays Earl, and the movie itself is such a piece. It's an art film about filmmaking. It's very it's family friendly. It's a very endearing story, and he delivers a performance that, again, is why I say he's a good actor.
Yeah.
What he's able to do in that movie, and it's his breakout performance. So I would start there and just work your way through. He was a Power Ranger. I don't know why that's relevant, but yeah. I brought it up.
You brought it up. That's okay. Yeah, we haven't done a Power Ranger pod yet. Maybe we should someday.
Well, I think we covered it all. We voiced our frustration. We identified the highs, the lows. They're coming back with 9 more episodes in 2019.
Yeah, moving to Monday Night After Arrow.
Monday Night After Arrow, not a bad spot to be in.
Yeah, I think that's actually. I know people were grumbling about some of the CW scheduling, but I felt actually Arrow and Black Lightning paired is a better pairing than it was with Flash. Yeah,
no, I agree. Anytime I watch this show, I always think about Arrow. There's so many parallels, but because these shows are, I'll say it, are very incestuous.
Yes.
I find myself always watching it and constantly comparing it to the other shows, and I think that's to its advantage, both an advantage and a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. The advantage is that it makes the world feel so much larger. The disadvantage is that you are constantly being like, I've already seen it.
Yep.
I've already seen this. I know how this works.
Yep.
They did this on The Flash 2 weeks ago. Or The Flash this season has been one up by Supergirl with everything they're trying to do.
Yeah, it definitely has. I think it just sort of has been borne out by some of the articles out there from other sources. I think people are really enjoying what Supergirl's been doing this season.
Yeah, I even dreamt about Sam Witwer last night. It happens. Will has had 5 dreams about Sam Witwer since. All right. So, I mean, let's just continue down this TV road, because another show we started talking about, we kind of put on the back burner, is Titans.
Yes.
Will, I still don't know why you like this show.
I really do, and I anticipated you saying that, because you're like, because one of the things that I will say, it does have some parallels to the Netflix Marvel shows as far as the violence and some of the themes and darkness and that kind of stuff. So, again, I think for me, it basically boils down to, I guess I'm a DC guy versus a Marvel guy. But that being said, I really, really enjoyed this series. It's just, everything about it for DCTV. I I guess it's like Arrow on steroids as far as the action and what you could do if if it were on a streaming platform, and and also just a very good, just interesting storytelling for me. I mean, it's a mix of horror and goth and comic book lore, and it just works for me. Um, and so, seeing the teaser for the season finale this week with Batman, which I was wondering if they were going to do it. They've been dancing around it all season, and if they are going to have the Bat on the show, and I can't wait to watch it this weekend.
So, but that preview very much confused me because the way they left off. Spoiler alert. The penultimate episode concludes with basically Dick going into the haunted house.
Yeah,
that's the only way to explain it.
Yeah, it is.
To save Rachel from her parents. Very superhero.
Yep.
And then they pick up with the preview for next week, and it's suddenly like, wait a second, the world didn't end. Okay, so in the first 5 minutes of the next episode, they're gonna wrap up what they've been really majority of the season, the big arc, which has been Rachel, only to then basically conclude the whole first season with a Robin story. Like, that's what I don't like. I think it feels out of order, Will. Like, it feels like you follow up that Robin arc, you finish it, then you conclude the whole thing by bringing the band back together, having Dick save Rachel, and it's just the family reunited.
Yeah, but seeing some of those still photos for the finale, where you have Dick and Dove together, and so I'm thinking that there's going to be some. I don't know if it's going to be flash forwards. I don't know. It looks like also that Starfire has had a makeover, so I don't know if there's going to be some alternate, some mind warping stuff going on in that haunted house that. We saw how it impacted Beast Boy, where Garth was, basically being tormented by this house. I mean, maybe with Dick and Corey, it'll have the opposite effect. And go into some of those, go a little bit deeper into some of those psychological places that we've been touching on all season, like whenever they were in the asylum, and Dick was injected with those drugs and went down to that trip where he was basically confronting how his time with Batman made him such a dark person, and how how he felt the longer he stayed around there, the more likely he was going to become a killer, and he was trying to fight that. And so maybe this episode, as far as the finale, will do that. Possibly.
Right. And I okay. So it's not necessarily that I think this is bad storytelling, because on a episode by episode basis, especially when they continue, when two episodes feel like they work well following each other, it's good. Especially towards the end, I just felt like every single episode was treated like a one-off, where it kind of felt like, why am I getting what normally should be in episode 4, which is basically a character introduction, in episode 8?
Yeah.
Why is that occurring? Why do we go away from Hawk and Dove for so long, only to get their origin story towards the end. I understand like there's a slight connection there,
Mm-hmm.
but if the whole season is 11 episodes long, you probably could have made it a 10 episode season and removed half of that stuff, because if they're not main players this year, reserve that story for another time.
Yeah, I
Like,
hear you.
follow
Yeah.
through with the Batman stuff, because I agree. The Robin story, I thought it was going to be repetitious. It is not. It is really good. I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like what they're doing with that resentment, the father-son dynamic, the hero, the sidekick breaking away from the main hero, I guess you would say. Donna Troy's introduction.
Oh yeah, I love
It's
Donna
great
Troy.
character.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
amazing.
great. Yeah,
Great
Donna,
character.
great character,
Yeah.
and yeah. The Hawk and Dove. I mean, the only thing I could figure is they didn't want to scare the hell out of us with a sex abuse story from episodes 3 or 4, because it was very dark. How Hank protected his brother, and so that maybe that was I get your point, and I've seen other people make your point as well, that it does seem a bit late and a little bit disjointed to build things up and then all of a sudden go down, take the off ramp into a Hawk and Dove story. On the other side, though, given how when we last saw those characters, I mean, we didn't know if she was well, theoretically, we didn't know if she was going to survive or not, even though we knew she was. Instead of having the miraculous, like, you're banged up in one episode and you're back the next and everything as well, I think maybe this off ramp into that was just to show how, again, trying to keep the show somewhat grounded as far as like the severity of her injuries. Maybe it was a tonal shift that, yes, we're building up all this over here with the Titans coming together, but we also have these other characters who are part of this universe as well that we need to bring back and revisit. And so you do reintroduce Hawk and Dove and really get into their backstory as far as how they came into being. We do get that introduction of Donna Troy, first with her and Dick as kids, and the much larger universe of the Justice League. I mean, again, the one thing I enjoy about Titans is that they don't beat around the bush on this. They firmly establish that the Justice League is here. We're not going to tease it. We're just going to acknowledge it. And so maybe that's why they pushed this story with Hawk and Dove later, just to, again, round out the universe that we're in now. And and we may not see them at all next episode in the finale, and we won't see them again until season 2. But at least now they're established, and they don't have to spend that time in season 2 introducing them to us.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what's going to happen in season 2.
But I think you have a very good point. I mean, it was a weird off ramp at this juncture where they were building such good momentum as far as the Batman story with Dick, and also just how Jason Todd fits into all this as well. And I mean, those episodes. Jason Todd was probably my favorite episode of the bunch so far this season.
I'm trying to think about what Donna Troy episode. It's mine.
Yeah, Donna. Yeah, but Donna, she's strong. You're right.
I mean, but it's another one-off.
Yeah.
Like, again, we continue. I understand that these characters are all important. They're all relevant.
Yeah.
I don't, it doesn't feel fluid. It
Yeah.
feels jarring at times, and that's what's bothering me, because I also don't feel like I'm watching a cohesive story unfold. I feel like I'm reading chapter 1, skipping to chapter 3, but then going back to chapter 2 to follow up where chapter 1 left off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair criticism. I mean, it is. But on a whole, despite that flaw in the narrative structure that they have, I'm still really just enjoying this series.
Yeah,
It's
because a nerd like you would.
yeah, yeah. It's totally yeah. It totally yeah. It's totally like yeah.
A DC apologist like you would
I would.
completely
I
enjoy
totally
this.
would. I would. I totally would. I totally would. And I'm not
And
gonna
yet you
bash. I'm
still
not gonna.
haven't watched Suicide Squad. How
No.
dare you?
and I never will.
You're like, there's just things I can't apologize for.
Yeah. There's this. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, man. Geez. Other news and stuff that's happening. They confirmed Punisher 2 season 2 will drop in January, only to then be canceled in February.
Yeah. Or oh, if it makes it that far, what are you talking about?
Well, they already filmed it, and that's also why they haven't canceled Jessica Jones yet, because they already filmed season 3.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's getting weird. Schmodown. I don't know where I am with the Schmodown right now.
I thought, as I mentioned to you, I tagged you in a comment on Twitter that I'm behind on my schmoes. I'm loving Collider Live. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm getting my Collider feel that way. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Collider's Live continues to be a strong presence, although I wish that 20 minutes of the episodes weren't always dedicated to being angry at comment responses.
Yeah.
And just chat responses, because there's plenty of content that they could do instead of the 20 minutes of normal just I hate when people respond to my posts because they're so negative.
Yeah.
Stop talking about it.
They've toned it back a little bit, but yeah, it's still there's at least one day a week where they rant about that, but yeah, with the schmoes, I know there is the big Spectacular 3 that drops Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So I will tune into that. I mean, at this point, I'm okay. I just went to the wiki, the Schmodown wiki, and just like, okay, let me just sort of see what happened with the matches, how we got to this place. Because I just being honest, I'm just not going to be able to go back and watch all those matches leading up to it.
No, nor should you.
Yeah.
There wasn't any standouts in my opinion. I mean, Ethan Irwin, strong player. Clark always ends up getting in her own way. Roka has a belt now, and it's just I miss my guy. I miss my Bateman. I miss very true heels.
Mm-hmm.
I miss entertainment. That was like so horrible. No, it's not that they're not entertaining. It's just that it takes it like Schmodown. It's a hit or miss. You either have the perfect chemistry, the match is very fascinating, it's competitive, it's a lot of wit.
Yeah.
Or you just have people doing trivia.
Yeah. And I can watch Jeopardy for that.
Or Josh Purdy, which is actually pretty funny. You know that Makuga is always talking about becoming the next host of Jeopardy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this perfect segue into the next topic.
Okay.
I highly encourage you, Will, to look up on YouTube Josh Purdy.
Okay.
Kind of Funny.
All right.
So Kind of Funny actually appeared on the Schmodown in a match all the way back in August. They were a team match. This was a
yeah, I remember that one. I think yeah, we talked about that one.
Yeah, Greg Miller and Nick Serpino.
Yeah.
And I remember on a recent Collider Live episode, Christian brought them up and was talking about how funny they are. And I'm like, I feel like I know who they're talking about, but I just have to go back. So I rewatched, and then I started watching some of their content. Fast forward about a week. I'm subscribed to their YouTube, their podcast feed. I've watched so many reviews that they've done. They did a full MCU review, and they literally went through every episode was talking about Iron Man through Avengers Infinity War, the rankings. You're going to hate the Black Panther review, but it's kind of funny. And
I see what you did there.
I'm so subtle about it. I really like their Spider-Man. They were going through all the Spider-Man movies.
Okay.
And they went through all the X-Men movies. So it's just great. And lately I've been watching their play mode stuff where they're just a bunch of guys playing video games and talking crap to one another. So yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. Like I flew down this kind of funny black hole of content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
I will check it out. Yeah, I remember when we talked about them back in the summer, when they were on the Schmodown, and yeah, I will. That's another during the hiatus. I will pick that up. Check it out.
Yeah, it's something you can definitely put on your headphones at work and just be doing work and listening to four guys talk about the MCU.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I was listening to Thor Ragnarok review this morning, and there was a point where they were talking about something, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, why isn't anybody watching the movie? Like, they're going to miss this other great joke that's far superior. And then I remembered they're not watching it while they review. It's just this weird mental thing that happened.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well, I know we have a bunch of holiday movies, and yeah, we can definitely maybe recap some of them. But I'll have to ask you. So during the holidays, which films are you most looking forward to checking out?
I don't know if I'm going to be checking out any. I don't know. Usually, I mean, this is Star Wars season, but there's no Star Wars movie, which is weird.
It is weird. It's
the first time in 3 years.
Yeah. See, Lucasfilm would have been wise just to hold off Solo until now. But anyway.
Maybe. It depends. I think I'm going on break. I think I might, depending on how things pan out, I might try to see Into the Spider-Verse, maybe. And I honestly, Will, I'm not, I'm so flighty with movie watching. Like, I don't know. I can't, nothing's like really telling me I have to see it in theaters.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. You know, honestly, the one I'm actually kind of, other than Spider-Verse, that I'm kind of sneakily want to see, sort of like my guilty pleasure one, is Bumblebee. It looks like they finally got the Transformers movie right.
I'm trying to think about it, what I've heard about it, and I don't know if I've heard much.
Yeah, and that's I think it's still embargoed, but it just from the trailers and more recent trailers, it just looks like they finally got a Transformers movie right. So maybe I'll
forgetting Aquaman's coming out. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. I meant to take advantage of the Amazon Prime this past weekend, but I didn't. So I'll just watch it at some point over Christmas.
Yeah. So listeners, if you're paying attention to any of that, like, meandered, rambling conversation, We are taking a break, and this may be our very last episode of 2018. There might be one more, who knows? But we will be back in 2019 in early January, and we're doing a schedule change next year. I know you just love it when we change things up on you guys, but it's all for good reasons. And most likely we'll be recording Tuesday nights, maybe a Sunday every now and then, depending on if the stars align. So I think that's it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me at Will M. Polk. That's WILLMPOLK.
You can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.